Hi guys, my name is Akarsh Jain, and today I want to show you my map to Savagery Lord of the Flies project. So here we have my map. We got all the main places with the mountain, the fire, the Lord of the Flies, the Castle Rock, etc. Let's start off with some explanations of the places. So first we have the Lord of the Flies, which is right here. So Jack and Roger, after killing a pig, put a stake through its head and stuck it on the ground. Then Simon later on discovers this pig in the forest, and pretty much the pig tells him that fear and the beast lives inside all the boys, and they can never kill the beast, truly. Um, and yeah, so let's talk about the next place. We have the mountain. So the mountain is where they made their first fire, and the boys rushed up there and they got really excited, and the fire kind of got out of hand because they didn't really have a plan for how the fire was going to be and how they would make the fire. So it actually burnt out a long place, a big place on the mountain. And later on they built a mountain kind of next to the bathing they built a fire, sorry, around this beach area. And yeah, let's go to the next thing. We have the platform. So the platform is where most of the meetings and stuff take place, and it's this big area in which all the boys gather and stuff. Oh, and also I forgot to tell you guys that I actually color coded most of my paragraphs about these specific areas. The green means that the actions that are going on in these areas are civil. The orange means that they're going into savagery but still like not completely savage, and then the red is completely savage. So the acts that happened in the mountain were extremely chaotic, so they were going into savagery. And the Lord of the Flies, Roger and Jack, sorry, like stuck the pig's head into the ground, so that's pretty savage of them. And then, let's move on to the platform. So in the beginning of the story, the platform was pretty civil, so that's why I have it green in the beginning and then red as it goes down. Because in the by the end of the story, Jack kind of goes off in his own tribe, and the platform's kind of like not used as much because Jack and everyone are just like in their own tribe, dancing around the pig and everything and having feasts. So yeah. Next we have the scar, and I colored this red because it's completely savage. So the scar is actually the symbol for the scar. The scar symbolizes that mankind can destroy paradise, because the plane in which the boys were flying in was shot down, and that was like mankind's doing. So, and this island was described to be extremely beautiful, and so this scar kind of put a dent in that and ruined paradise. Next, we'll move on to the fire. So, the fire, the first fire at least, was made by, was suggested by Ralph, because he wanted to signal to passing ships that there were people on the island. And so he made this fire. He suggested the making of this fire. The boys got extremely excited, the other boys on the island, that they rushed up the mountain without any plan and put this fire ablaze. But they didn't really have much of a plan, right? So this fire got really out of control and burnt like a huge part of the mountain. And one of the kids that was near the fire got lost. He had a mulberry birthmark. That was one of the details. And I put this as completely savage. I put this as orange reddish because the kids were trying to be civilized, and like the idea was a civilized idea in which they would make a small signal for ships that were passing by, but it ended up becoming savage and chaotic when the kids just did it out of control. When the kids made a fire that was out of control. Next, let's move on to the beach. So the beach is mostly good, but around the end it gets a little chaotic here because the whole island burns up at the end. But here we have the beach. So the beach is where Ralph and Piggy first met, and yeah, so they first met at the beach, and they went in the lagoon to find the conch. And yeah, but by the end of the book, the beach and the whole island was all burnt up by Jack. So let's move on. We have the beachfront. So I included the beachfront because a ship was actually passing by and the beachfront. I included a beachfront because a ship was passing by the island, and Ralph and Simon were working on huts. The other kids were supposed to be working on huts with them, as instructed by Ralph. However, they were out playing in the lagoon. Not playing in the playing in the bathing pool, and just like playing and goofing off in general. And Jack was busy hunting. So Ralph and Simon saw this ship, and they looked to the mountain. However, and on the mountain, the signal fire had been was put out. There was no fire coming out. So they had a chance to be rescued, but the fire was put out, and it was Jack and his choir boys' job to keep the fire ablaze. However, they didn't do so because Jack was busy hunting. So after this, Ralph kind of scolded Jack about keeping the fire ablaze so that they could get rescued. Because in this situation, it was a possibility that the boat could have seen the fire and they could have gotten rescued. Let's move on. So the lagoon, pretty self-explanatory, or not self-explanatory, but pretty basic stuff that happened here. In this lagoon, Ralph and Piggy found the conch shell, and yeah, Ralph used it to summon all the boys on the island so that they could make a civilization. Yeah, so I colored that green, but towards the end, it became red because Jack kind of burnt the whole island apart, burnt the whole island. So yeah, let's move on. Next up, we got Castle Rock. So Castle Rock is over here. So Sam and Eric actually found the parachutist, but they thought it was the beast still. So Jack and Ralph and some of the other bigger, older kids went to look for the beast, and they went to the first place, or they went to the only place that they hadn't looked on the island, and that was Castle Rock. And yeah, so I colored that red as well because of the things that happen later on Castle Rock when Piggy dies and when the conch is destroyed. So when those things happen, so when Piggy dies and when the conch is destroyed, civilization, like a civilized civilization, is pretty much ruled out because the conch represents a civilized civilization and it was destroyed. That's why I colored it red here. And also most of Jack's tribe was staying on Castle Rock when Piggy came to retrieve his glasses, and they were pretty savage at that moment. Next, let's move on to the huts on the island. So the huts on the island are right here, and they were being built by Ralph and Simon over here, and the same boat incident happened, but they weren't getting any help from the others because they were too busy not following Ralph's rules and his regulations and the tasks that he had given them. So I did color that orange because it was kind of not civilized, but it was still not completely savage because the boys were just playing around and not following his orders, but they weren't really being violent towards each other. And lastly, we have the bathing pool here. So the bathing pool was where these guys were, the other little boys were goofing, the littlings were goofing off when Ralph and Simon needed their help to build huts. And here I have some quotes by William Golding about his description of the island. And yeah, so this is my poster, another final look at it. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys.